approximately 19 million South Africans, or about a third of the population, benefit from the government's social assistance program. This is according to the South African Social Security Agency, represents nearly 10 times the number of social grants that were in payment in 1994. Our business reporter, Ntokozo Khumalo, is joining us now to unpack how social wage has grown as an expenditure in the national budget. Ntokozo, so at least the 200 billion rand invested annually to carry out the social assistance program. Can the budget continue to carry it when the National Treasury is urgently chasing revenue?
Good morning, Aldrin. Well, it is a commitment by government to ensure that South Africans are lifted out of poverty. So really not a choice whether the National Treasury can continue to carry that cost, but it's a cost nevertheless, as you said in that intro, that has been steadily growing since 1994, about 10 times now of the payments that we saw at the dawn of democracy. And when we take a look at the National Treasury's consolidated spending plans for the next 3 years, adding there 251.3 billion rand to functions including health and education, as well as social developments. And that's, of course, to then provide the carry, through cost of the 2023-24 wage increase, as well as that extension of the COVID-19 social relief of distress grants. An increase is expected when Finance Minister Ntokozo does table the budget, and of course government trying to meet those national development goals, which is to get people out of poverty. And as that graphic just alluded to, when we look at the international numbers of where that poverty line band is, SASSA offering some grants, I think 2 grants that are in the upper bound with income of about 1,500 rand, the lower bound of income being 1,058 rand, and then the food poverty line with an income of 760 rand monthly. So trying to keep up with inflation when it comes to the various grants that SASSA does offer South Africans that are living in poverty. The concern here is, Aldrin, the population is growing, currently just under 19 million South Africans receiving one form of a grant from SASSA, but that expected to grow sufficiently over the next 3 years, spurred on, of course, by the growth in the population, but also the unemployment rates that just continues to remain stubbornly high. So SASSA having various interventions that they're trying to introduce to ensure that they do meet the outcomes of the grants that they actually pay, and those, of course, being to reduce the poverty levels, but also to help drive economic transformation. So I don't know if you recall, but President Cyril Ramaphosa at one of his sonas just speaking on one young business person who started his business from that 350 social grants that he received. So economic transformations being one of the outcomes that SASSA hopes to eventually get by empowering individuals and having, that sustainable communities. And with the headlines that we've been working through today, Aldrin, those floods that we saw in KZN, and as we see there, the social wage by province, KZN having the highest number of recipients, followed by Gauteng, Eastern Cape, and Limpopo. So clearly that support from governments is still needed by those communities who, as they seem to claw themselves out of poverty, then something like, natural disasters driven by climate change taking place, that then sort of takes a few steps back in terms of the support that they do require. But from an internal point of view, SASSA, of course, working on improving organizational efficiencies to ensure that that money that is spent efficiently, goes to the people that do require it. So we do know with, the moving over from the gold to the black card, moving over to become a little bit more digital, some of those interventions for the 2024-2025 period, improving financial management, as we heard earlier on in the interview that you had, to ensure that people who do not qualify for SASSA do not actually benefit, leaving out a lot of South Africans who need that benefit. So 2023, we had about 18.2 million South Africans living in extreme poverty, and that's about 29% of the population. But as I said, with the growing population and rising unemployment, we are likely to see that number tick up, and we will hear then from Finance Minister Ntokozo on the 12th of March just how much of an increase we will be seeing with the various grants that are offered as part of that social development, and for how much longer we can expect it, because currently it takes up about 60% of then that non-interest spending by government, expected to ease slightly by 2026, 2027 to about 58%, but still a substantial amount of spending then going to SASSA grants. So of course, improving that efficiency will be important over the next years, especially considering that the country is trying to raise revenue and ensure that our spending is a lot more efficient. Aldrin.
Well, thank you so much for that, Ntokozo. And of course, that 19 million, those are people that are receiving the various grants that are coming from the state, excluding the SRD grant. Once you add the SRD grant, it's 28 million people that are receiving social assistance from the state, as mentioned by the President during his State of the Nation address as well.